So this is going to be the first in the series of lectures by the Inner School of Aleister Crowley, the AA, specifically the lineage of Grady Lewis McMurtry and Jerry Cornelius. And I was thinking we'd introduce ourselves to the folks first. My name is Erica Johnson, and my pen name is Erica M Cornelius. My motto, Absorbio. Go ahead.
My name is Christopher Reed Johnson. I don't have another name except for my motto, which is Laus Preapud Dio 217.
And so we just thought we'd begin today with maybe the broadest possible topic. This whole idea of the series is going to be very fluid. So if we feel like talking about something, or if y'all think there's something you'd like us to talk about and we're interested, we will. Today we were just going to talk about, what is the goal or the telos of the AA? What does this organization or order exist to do? Just kind of starting from the basics and maybe expanding as we see fit, and then we'll just wrap it up whenever we want to do so. Would you like to say something about what you believe, like if you had to put it in a big broad package, what the AA is?
Yeah, as we briefly discussed earlier, I would say the whole point of it would be to know thyself.
Okay.
But that does subsume a lot of things, obviously. But the first step would be to be honest with yourself and really know what your motivations are and who you are, and that's why people always recommend psychotherapy and things of that nature. So, but then you had a better answer, I think. Actually.
Well, I'll just kind of try to like put a context around that. I don't know if it's better, but bigger maybe or something. So, to me, the principle of Thelema, which is the religion that Crowley, I guess, inaugurated, the law of Thelema is what he, channeled down or something for this aeon, this time of the human cycle, the 2,000-year cycle. So the idea is that we have, a principle. Every individual has a principle of Godhead or divinity or deity. So when you say know thyself, I mean, that's, 100% agree with that. And the idea there is that we might begin with the outer, at the level of what we call the man of earth, or the first degree of our system. So that knowing thyself at that level, maybe we should talk more about that. But that's going to look different when someone's just sort of like exploring who they are. What is the law of Thelema, which we should probably talk about a little bit, and basically how do I apply that in my life? How do I do that? How do I live in freedom? But eventually, it's kind of like discovering that seed of God within, and then bringing that out. But that's like the whole what we're going to talk about today. So,
Yeah. I was thinking, knowing thyself involves a certain amount of identification with the I, with the ego. You have to imply that. And then it's necessary too in order to be able to withstand the energies that you're pulling down into yourself later on. So it's ironically you have to strengthen the ego before you can dissipate it, which sometimes comes sooner or later in some cases, but for a lot later for a lot of people, which is a good thing because there's no rush ultimately, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this, just picking up with the very last thing you said. I mean, we know that, or we eventually one comes to know that we're immortal. But in this lifetime, like I'm embodied here as Erica. Let's say, I have to first have some kind of sense of who I am. I'm thinking maybe I can give an overview of just like the 3 grades of the AA. The Book of the Law says that there's 3 grades traditionally. So going back in history just a touch, like Crowley wanted to create an inner school. He had been involved with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. We can read about how, where that went. He had a falling out with him, just to oversimplify that. But when he came to want to create his school, he essentially built on top of that. He basically made a new version of the Golden Dawn, which is a 10-grade system,
Right.
I wasn't planning on going into that. Feel free if you wanted to do
I was
so.
just going to say, but prior to that, he was Buddhist, right? So he built upon the system of Alan Bennett, who was part of Golden Dawn, as well as Oscar Eckenstein, which I think somebody should really write a biography about. So he's a very interesting character. He taught him how to climb and focus rhythm, what he was doing, and very meditative. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's like very eclectic. Thelema as a religion or as a philosophy is very eclectic. And as far as the structure of it, the way, at least the way that our lineage interprets it, is a 3-grade
Right.
structure. So the man of earth grade is one, and that, and we could talk about the Kabbalah maybe some other time, because I don't know if I would.
Yeah, I mean,
To make this
ultimately,
real
the
simple.
man of earth, I mean, the simplest way to explain it is just learning how to live thelemically.
Yeah.
Is the whole thing. So,
The law. So the law of Thelema, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
What is the law?
And so, I mean, whereas many of, basically maybe all, I'm not sure, but certainly most that of the religions or spiritual systems that I've encountered, and I've read it quite a bit. Tell me if I'm wrong, but usually there's sort of like a set of morals or a set of traditions that people are all expected to live by. So if you deviate from the specifics of the moral system, then that's not good. Or you're supposed to follow it. Thelema, from the way I understand it, is that essentially we each have to find our own law. So it's not that we can do whatever we want to do and still be in alignment with it. It's not that anything goes. However, like I can't meet you and go, you shouldn't do that. Like if I see you, I don't know what, smoking or something like that, well, you shouldn't do that. Because the fact is, first of all, it's your experiment. You need to figure it out, what is correct for your incarnation at this time. And also,
but it's not for everybody at the same time.
Are you talking about Thelema's not for everybody?
Right, that live by those laws, because the majority of people, from what I've experienced, need that structure. Like at the Vipassana meditation courses, they need that structure, the morality, the 5 precepts, in order to not have their mind so agitated that they can't do anything, because it's hard to live by Thelemic principles ultimately. It's really difficult. So
yeah, I was kind of going in the same direction with it too, because for me, like the journey of figuring out what I really truly need to do and what I truly don't need to do at a given time. Like, I mean, the problem that I have faced, and I think most people will face, is that first of all, we're trained by society that really doesn't care about these things, doesn't care about our inner law. So there's conventions, and so sometimes following one's law involves flouting conventions and then having to pay the price. But then there's also self-deception, just wanting to be a certain way or wanting to do certain things that ultimately are not correct for me, let's say at that time or ever perhaps. So it's like this sort of process of experimenting, screwing up, like making mistakes, realizing that, hopefully learning because we keep a journal, and eventually sort of modifying things to the point where, okay, this is how I have to live. Like maybe you
right.
don't have to live that way, but I do, in order to really channel the divine.
Yeah, right. It starts out like mostly for most people, it's like rebellion. Rebelling against the mainstream religion, obsession with the image of being somebody that's a rebellious, and it has its function for sure. But you get to a point where it's kind of like it loses its efficacy. It doesn't lead anywhere else. But I don't think. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean that's the thing is that so even the man of earth, I think, is super difficult, because even to try to figure out what it is to live thelemically, like one of the things that Jerry would sort of emphasize, and I know Jack Parsons did as well, is the idea that freedom is a two-edged sword, right? So the idea that okay, you would think that some people would think, and I have thought, oh, do it thou wilt. So I can basically do everything I want to, and let's say, for example, like you and I are roommates, I feel like practicing the drums, let's say, in the middle of the night, and you have an exam tomorrow morning or something, and I even know that, let's say, I say, well, too bad, it's my will to play drums, but that's not exactly Thelema, because the idea is like, if I'm thwarting your will, then because the will is universal, then there's something wrong with that. So it's like
there's a collision happening.
Yeah, a collision between the two stars. We say every man and every woman is a star.
Right.
So sort of how do I live in freedom but not impinge on others' freedom, other stars' freedom, your freedom, somebody else's freedom. So that's like the challenge. And I have to admit that having seen, Thelemic organizations, orders, communities, I would have to say that we're at a pretty primitive stage in figuring even that out. Even the man of earth piece of that is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
To not, and even trying to parse that out. I think that could be like a whole, that could be a lecture in itself. I wasn't going to try to get into that today, but I mean, just in general, the point being, it's very.
There's
difficult.
a lot of ego going on. Let's put it that way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to grades and people thinking that just because I'm a 4th or a 5th degree, that means that I am a 4th or a 5th degree. It doesn't mean, it's just a title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about who can. It's a competitive thing. It's not a magical thing, really. A lot of the time.
Yeah.
That's not everybody, but a lot of people are like that.
Yeah. And then how to respond to that too, given if you know better than that.
I would just stay out of it unless it directly involved me, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, if I could expand just a tiny bit on what you just said, because I think that idea, like the idea that sometimes we take our rank, or whether it's just like in ordinary society, people who are wealthy or powerful tend to think they're better than or superior to other people who are not. Even in Thelema, where we're kind of a very small religion, like you're saying, if somebody's in the OTO and they're higher up in it or something, they may, ordo-temporally oriented, I should say, because we haven't said that yet, they may think they're better. So the idea that every man and every woman is a star is like, well, of course we don't have the same attributes. Some people are smarter, some people have more charisma, some people are more talented in certain ways. So we're not saying that, but the star is saying, each one of us is a part of God or a part of the divine. In that, we're exactly equal.
The same thing as saying we're all God.
Yeah, we're all God.
Right. So.
And so if I'm trying to.
If I'm hurting you, I'm hurting myself, and vice versa. And that's what people don't realize.
Yeah. And if I'm lording it over you, then I'm actually denying that I'm God, and I'm denying that you're God.
Right.
So it's like, how do you balance the specificity of who we are, and yet honor and truly make room for the fact that, like, okay, you're on your journey. And we say, you're fulfilling your will. That's your intent, to fulfill your will. I don't know your will. So how can I presume to try to tell you how to live, or how can I presume to lord it over you, or something? If I literally have no idea what your place in the cosmos is as this incarnation.
Yeah, I think that's self-solving, and it's just we don't lord things over people, right? And don't presume to know other people's wills ultimately. And I've been able to get along with a lot of people by just staying out of those types of situations, so for sure.
Yeah, so this is a very, so what we're talking about is the man of earth, meaning how do we live Thelemically? How do we just simply allow everyone else to be part of God, but in their specific way, and of course accounting for the fact that most of us are making mistakes, and most of us aren't actually fully living our will, because why? We don't know ourselves yet. We're still learning.
And there's still some people out there that are bordering on sociopathic too, that you gotta watch out for. So, so it's a tough system to make it through, but if you do, it's definitely worth it. If you can able to channel God, and that's when the benefits start coming in for sure.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on something else you said earlier when we talked about the energies. So the idea there, just beginning in Man of Earth, and we can maybe go higher than that, but in Thelema, so acknowledging that we're divine, we're all part of the divine. That means that we're all channeling the Kundalini energy. We're channeling like the sexual force, however you want to put it. We're channeling the chi, and so part of the training, especially in the AA, where we really are trying to move upward, not necessarily faster than we can. I mean, if someone stays in the Man of Earth their entire lifetime, that's perfectly fine, because there's no rush, there's no timetable. However, we are working with the chakras. So if the first chakra, the Muladhara chakra, where it's sort of like where the Kundalini sleeps, if that begins to awaken and move up, then the vessel, in other words, our bodies, like physical, astral, different bodies, had better be prepared.
Well, that's why they open the Aja and the Altar in the Minerva.
In the OTO.
Yeah, in the OTO for sure. Yeah, to try to mitigate that, and they stagger them, to sort of, so it didn't all overwhelm you at once, sort of thing.
So
it's a smart system in that sense, for sure.
so I'm gonna confine. I have a question about what you said. I'm gonna confine it only to just this aspect of like trying to be protective of the bodies, so that because so someone doesn't have a blow up in their chakra system. When you say that, that's why that the OTO Venerable degree opens up the Ajna chakra and then the Muladhara chakra. Why is that protective? Like,
Because you don't have a direct connection. There's multiple reasons, but between the Anahata and Vishya, and like it's not, they're very well separated. You know what I mean? And very important in terms of knowing oneself. And a lot of people stop at Minerva, and there's nothing wrong with that. I had friends that stopped at Minerva, and they did really well. So, and for women especially, I don't know that they even need to go past second degree, in terms of the phallic mysteries and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's multifarious. It's hard to answer that question very succinctly, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to just sort of get through the chakra, the safety part of it.
The safety. I mean, I've heard of people like actually redirecting the energy out through their ajna and like going nuts because they start seeing the world in these different ways that they're not ready to see. It's like premature enlightenment or something, because you really have to build up to it. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself, and you maybe even go psychotic. And a lot of people have gone psychotic that I've known. So
yeah, unfortunately,
it's a dangerous system.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I've had the same experience where it's funny, like we have this system that sounds so easy, like we were talking about. It's like, but on multiple levels, like on a moral level, and just getting along with each other is problematic. But it's also dangerous in the sense that we're playing around in the chakra system where all these energies can enter, and if we're not balanced or if we're not what's the word, clean, sort of like, then things can really go awry, and really, like you're saying, psychosis, it could be
and we're already attracted people that to begin with that are on the fringes of things, so there's a likelihood, more of a likelihood that there's going to be some issues unresolved.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's,
otherwise we'd all be good Christians or something, right?
Okay, well that begs the question, so why is this a good system? Like why do we like this system? Like what's good about it if it's so dangerous and such?
Because nothing worth having, the old saying, right? When you make it, you have something to be proud of. That's why, and I like a challenge, personally. That's my reasoning. It might be ridiculous, but I like a challenge.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling that this question that we're asking probably is like there's as many answers as there are Thelema. Because I have a slightly different answer, but it's really friendly to yours, but it's different because I don't necessarily like a challenge per se. But for me, like I just like you mentioned, like I've been a pretty fringy person. I just did not fit in at all into traditional anything, society, religion, and yet I had this drive, like something in me needed the expression, like something to be part, to actually realize in some fashion. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning, but something was in me saying, there's more to this than what people are telling me. People are telling me, oh, just get a job and just get a house and this and that and and then pretty much retire and then pretty much die. And it's like I just was for me, I could not see the point. Like for me, there was just no meaning in that. It was depressing. It just felt wrong.
We talked about that. I saw these people. I'm like, they can't have the answer. You know what I mean? Like they're so.
You mean like religious folks or something?
Like at school teachers. People. I worked at retail stores, and the people come through the line, and they're so unhappy. And I'm like, if they had the answer, they would not be like this. You know what I mean? So I'm willing to search elsewhere, and then I searched everywhere actually. But even in the OTO, I felt like I was sort of on the fringes of even that to a certain extent. So. I don't know.
Yeah, so I definitely, I want to be careful because like I have friends of various religions, and like for example, one of my jobs I had a good Christian friend, and I think she's a pretty traditional Christian. And I'm not going to try to judge whether she was happy or not. I never want to tell somebody their path to God, but I do feel comfortable saying that maybe not everyone. I think there's people who have revelatory experiences in traditional religions, and they have very deep, explorations of it. But for a lot of people, they're just kind of going through the motions. That's what they've been taught, and therefore it's dead to them. It's like they're not really accessing. Their relationship with God is so highly mediated because it's just like whatever you're supposed to think, or I can't think that, or I can't have that feeling or experience. So it's like everything is so mediated that it's actually very blocked. So I mean, at an energetic level, like basically their chakras are shut down.